So you are looking at a live situation here on I-49. You're looking at the southbound lanes. This is live just after 7 a.m. this morning. Just wanted to go ahead and point this out to our traffic folks this morning. So this is the southbound lane, and just in the last little bit while I was pulling in forecast data, it looks like they've gotten affected vehicles, at least one of them, up on the tow truck, but a significant wreck here has actually closed, as you guys can see, the southbound lanes right here at 163rd Street this morning. So still quite a bit to go on that one, and you can tell that northbound folks have to slow down and take a look, where traffic merges right there anyway. So slow situation this morning in I-49 neighborhood right there at 163rd. And again, southbound lanes are closed as of just after 7 o'clock this morning. So, all right, we got lots to talk about in the weather today. We've been talking about it for the last couple days. Let's go ahead and tell you exactly what you need to know for this evening. Brought to you today by State Line Group of Hume, Missouri. Please keep these guys in mind, sponsoring our local weather for all of your earth-moving needs, rock, dirt, and sand. You can jump on their Facebook page and take a look at recent projects, big and small. You can give them a call. There is the phone number. They also do storm shelters as well, which is what I really like about them. And pictures of those are available on their page as well. So ask them any questions that you might have. They are sponsoring the forecast today. So the big story is this. We're talking about our severe weather chances for this evening. So here we are into the slight risk. Most of us just want to go ahead and point the overall picture this morning. Slight risk covering east central Kansas and west central Missouri this morning. We actually are now up into an enhanced risk up north of Kansas City, where a possible triple point might get together this afternoon before the big wave of storms moves through. So that is a possible. There's also another possible. We call it a conditional threat for the afternoon before the more significant threat probably comes through this evening. So it's another one of those where we watch in the afternoon. That's the big picture for today from about 3 p.m. on. And then we'll watch for the line of storms that comes through tonight. A little bit more confident in that. So I'll show you the schedule here in just a second. This is all caused by this front right now, which is turned back around and is going to start pushing up to the north as a warm front, opening up a big warm sector up here. That's what we're going to watch this afternoon. It's going to be just like our last setup a couple days ago, where we watched those afternoon hours with that warm front draws in all that warm air and moisture over the afternoon hours. We're going to pay attention to cloud cover as well to see what develops for the afternoon and evening. So again, bottom line being weather aware after about 3 p.m. today. So we'll go ahead and put up the tornado probability map. This is covering the afternoon hours. Not that we could not have them later this evening, but it's a lot of what I said last go around. We're going to watch for development of small supercell structures in the afternoon. It is conditional, so things have to align for that to happen. I am not sure that they will. I'll tell you some of the factors, but it's just something to watch for. So here again is the probability area for tornadoes, mostly dealing with this afternoon before we get into more of a wind threat this evening. All of us going to be affected by that. All of us are going to have strong winds this evening. And hail, also a probability. This is a little bit more likely, again, with some of those afternoon storms that may develop. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the schedule and what I do see coming through. Picking things up starting at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. This is, between 2 and 3. I look for some organization out here, Wichita, Emporia, Topeka. That'll be our first clue that things are coming together. But here is what we're going to be watching for in eastern Kansas and west central Missouri. And this is the very latest forecast data trying to handle that conditional threat over the afternoon hours, trying to see what is the most likely thing to happen. So for the last several runs of forecast data, since I've been watching it up early for you this morning, it does continue to throw out some of these small cells out ahead of the main line. And so here, for example, this is about 4 or 5 p.m. So it really could be anywhere between 3 and 6 p.m. that out ahead of the main line, like you guys are seeing here with me, we could have some of these small cells to be organized. These are the ones that, if they get together, these guys could be dangerous. They could form supercell structures, and we are talking then about the possibility of that tornado threat. So I know that was a little bit higher up to the north, but really anywhere in this area out in that warm sector could form those. And so that's what we're looking at. Forecast data does say those are a possibility. Here's the main line again moving through. This is about 6 p.m. now. We are still watching. These may or may not happen, but data seems to make me think that we may have some of those out in front of the line, those smaller, possibly more dangerous in terms of that tornado threat discrete cells. So then here we are between 6 and 7 p.m. You guys can see the main line of showers and thunderstorms starts to move through. Back this up just a second for the Kansas side. This is about 6 p.m. So we'll say between 5 and 7 that things just pick up right south of Kansas City. Look at you folks getting lucky again in the KC area, but we're probably talking between 5 and 6 p.m. about Paola, Garnett, Iola, down towards Yates Center and Chanute. So then let's move forward. There is around 7 p.m. that I think things have moved across state line up here to the north, where we were just showing you on traffic cams. Belton, Harrisonville, I think you guys are definitely in it by 7 p.m. Moving down here towards Archie, Drexel, still looking at the 7 p.m. hour. And then again, it's going to slide off to the southwest, so down towards Pleasanton and again Chanute. So that is the schedule for things. Here is your 8 o'clock hour that things look to be impacting more Archie, Butler, Ballard, Appleton City area. We'll be watching in this line. You guys hear me say it, all severe weather season for these quasi-linear structures. These are actually nicely organized on model data. And so if these do come together in this way, we're talking more about a damaging winds threat. So we can have damaging winds up at the top, but we can also have hail damage. We can also have some little spin up tornadoes, typically shorter in duration, but they still can happen with this. So once again, it's looking for those small discrete supercells earlier in the day, and this line moving through later in the night, more damaging winds. So here we are by about 11. Let's see, what time is that? That's about 10 o'clock right there. So yeah, there's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but a good chunk of western Missouri is done with this by then. So that's what we're talking about. Lots of reason to be concerned. I'm watching instability, for example. Here's one example. These are high instability. They're not crazy high, but they are high enough to cause all of those threats that we just described. So there's reason to be concerned tonight and reason to pay attention for sure. And that is just what we'll do throughout the day. One of the things that we can watch, because we have that warm front rather, that's going to push through the area. It is going to bring instability. It's going to allow for it. But we can watch cloud cover to see if there's any breaks in the clouds this afternoon. And that would spur more of that conditional threat toward those smaller discrete supercells. So this is actually a few hours ago. It was relatively clear before the sun came up this morning. Here's your cloud cover that is taken over now. So I'm looking at that, trying to get an idea what may happen today. And high-res models are depicting that cloud cover actually stays. I don't really see too many breaks there. Do you guys over our area? So that's a good sign. If that happens, then I'm much less worried about that conditional threat as we move through the afternoon hours. But I mean, here we go late in the afternoon. Could see some breaks in there that could spur those small cells. You guys are seeing it here. So it's just one thing that we can watch today. So that is your threat for this evening. We'll be paying attention to it here. What happens after that? Well, here is your big picture forecast. There's our low pressure that slides off to the Great Lakes that's driving all this with that trailing cold front. That pushes out. High pressure does take over for the weekend. So I'm actually going to look at temperatures a little bit more than anything else for the weekend because it stays dry. So we get over into next week. I see a few disturbances. Possibly, these are like Tuesday, Wednesday, before maybe some activity returns to the forecast. So once this settles in, things stay dry, which is really a good thing. Speaking of dry, let's talk about rain amounts. So we'll go back over here. Let me pull up what I think we're looking at in terms of rainfall tonight. Here we go. Yeah, so this is a concern for me for our areas that have already received that ridiculous amount of rainfall the other night. Some places got 4 inches, some places got like 7. There's a couple reports out there of 8 inches of rain and more. So, but anyway, we're talking about this area really. Butler, Appleton, this is out kind of like east and south of Butler, where we have washed out roads. We have all kinds of situations due to the flash flooding the other night. So these areas tonight are going to pick up, unfortunately, the most rain. This is not a prolonged rain event. You guys saw that. We're not looking about training thunderstorms, which was the problem, which was the cause of that the other night. Not so much tonight. These are fairly progressive, but unfortunately, the most rain that they will drop is kind of in the same area, calling for around another inch. So, I'm glad it's not prolonged again, but these areas that have already received some rainfall will probably expect a few flash flooding or flood bulletins tonight, just because I see around another inch dropped out of this system tonight. So if you're back up here off to the northwest, it is much less. You're going to be between 3/10 of an inch and half an inch down here. So let's pick out the 18 highway corridor out west of Adrian, half an inch. But by the time you get to the other side of Passaic, could jump to 1 inch. So that's just what we're talking about in terms of rainfall, unfortunately, probably for most of us. So, all right, here's where we're going temperature-wise today. It's going to cool off with that high pressure, but not today. So we're going to crawl up about to the mid 70s today. When that cold front drags through tonight, we won't be paying attention to temperature. It does cool off as all this is happening, and especially right after that, getting down into the mid 40s tonight. So temperature drops tonight after the big storm activity pops through more than anything. So here's your 10-day forecast again. I'm looking at Sunday. Been paying attention to that, and I do see, I don't know if we're going to get to freezing, but it's going to get close. If you got sensitive stuff outside you want to close up, cover up, not a bad idea. 30s, low 30s. Do expect a few pockets down below, around or below freezing for Sunday morning. 55 for Saturday, 61 for a high on Sunday. Stays that way Monday and Tuesday. It is going to cool off with that high pressure. Don't see the 70s again until midweek. So I will be paying attention to things here this afternoon and evening. You guys know any warnings come out. If I think they're going to come out, I will get on here, Facebook and YouTube, and live stream for you. Appreciate you joining me this morning. We'll watch things this afternoon, and I'll be talking to you later.